Hey guys, what's happening? It's Nate from Play Your Court. Today we're going to take a look at a student, Art, one of our Play Your Court Plus members who submitted his video for analysis. And we're going to compare that with FAA, Felix Algier Aliassime. I'm probably already butchered it. So for now, I'll just say Felix or FAA. All right, but so this cross-sectional analysis, we're going to be able to get some takeaways that can help us with our own serve, regardless of the level we're playing now. Are we going to get a professional level serve? Probably not. But there's some major takeaways. You know, the 8 moving parts in the serve. If we can get 4 or 5, we can have a really, really good serve. So let's jump into it. We're going to look at a problem that we see with a lot of players. And so at first glance, the two players look very, very similar. So let's talk about some things that Art is doing extremely well. So a little bit of a pendulum, but he starts in how we actually instruct a lot of players when they're first, learning the serve or trying to get their serve to a more advanced level. And this is this abbreviated position. And this abbreviated position means that the racket strings are facing down. And what I love here is we can tell how loose Art's hand is here because the racket is listing just slightly below his hand. All right, we'll see FAA enter this same position here. And we're not worried about the stances. We're not worried about platform versus pinpoint. This is something that's happening. This error is something that has nothing to do with those two things. All right, so we see Felix in the same position, strings down, a little bit more open. But the major takeaway here, all right, is what is happening with the trunk and the hips. All right, and what you're going to see here on the right with Felix is that you can see his chest. You can actually see who makes the clothing that he's wearing. And what you'll notice over here with Art is that his chest is closed. So the direction of his body is much more to the side, okay? And this is really important because without this degree, this angle, and what we're looking at is the shoulders being about 20% and then the hips being at 10% of rotation. This is going to help the power position. All right. So as Felix enters his power position here, all right, this is the power position, trophy stance. Look at the elbow to hand ratio. All right. And so as Art enters his power position, you're going to notice the line is much shorter. All right, and this is the difference in creating that big MPH, creating a lot of spin. We need power to create big spin, and this is a product of not getting the hips and upper trunk rotated. All right, and this is something that we see a lot of players fall into. He's just particularly stiff through the hips and the upper torso. And the result is what often happens, he's doing everything right, but here you can see he's falling into waiter's tray. All right, and that doesn't mean that you can't have a good serve with waiter's tray. David Ferrer fell into waiter's tray. You can still get into racket extension, but it is very, very limiting for most players. And even if you do get into slightly waiter's tray, you still have to have this 20 degrees of shoulder rotation, 10 degrees of hip rotation. All right, so here as we watch Felix's arm drop into that racket drop position, look at this position here and how different is it. So at maximum extension, the distance and the depth of Felix's racket is significantly different than our friend Art's. Okay, and let's go back here. So this is all a result of this coil in the beginning of the serve. Okay, so we go back, and this starts with the stance. All right, so here we can see Felix's feet are lined up at a much sharper angle. Art's toes are facing, both toes are facing parallel to that baseline. So Felix is starting with that hip much, much more open. All right, and now the tossing arm assists this. All right, now real quick, don't go copying FAA's toss. All right, this bent arm position is not ideal. He does straighten it, but for most of us, even advanced players or, intermediate players, this is going to cause inconsistencies. Art actually does a really good job here of keeping the arm straight. He's tossing parallel to the baseline and tossing with that arm nice and straight from the shoulder and locking out all the joints. The release point could be a little bit higher, ideally the line in the eyes, all right? But this part, this looks good, all right? But as he's getting into this horizontal shoulder abduction, that's the arm going back. You can see here, the arm stays in this position. And Felix really gets into, you can see his arm moving here, where he really brings that arm back and he opens the chest. There's a stretching in the chest here, all right? And that is really what we're looking at. And so the takeaway here, make sure that you're lining up. You slide that back foot to your back foot so that the toe is closer to the heel of your front foot, and that you create that 45-degree angle, and that as you're tossing, you're coiling. All right, so what are some of the reasons that we don't get into this coil? And that can be physical limitations. All right, there can be problems with hip mobility and shoulder mobility, and sometimes we just don't know. So this is something that we want to work on. All right, so just checking out the serves here, the contact as we work out. You can see Art has really good contact. So from here, things look great. We'll fast forward over to FAA, minimize here just a moment. All right. Can't see the contact, a little bit out of screen. But so from here, you'd be like, man, Art's got a great serve, and he does. He's got a good serve. But what will make it better is that he coils and he opens up his hips in order to allow that horizontal shoulder abduction, getting the arm further away from his body, allowing a deeper racket drop. And then just to show something here right at the end, at contact, you'll notice the racket is turning, right? But the arm, although trying to pronate, at contact, this is happening almost simultaneously. All right, contact, we want to be flush with the ball. And then internal shoulder rotation from here, what you're going to see there, you can see FAA's strings are out. And then the racket goes, but the arm stays up in this line as the racket goes. All right. So that's just a secondary thought here. At contact, Art's fantastic in contact. But what you're going to see here in contrast is that racket starts to turn and then it's coming down. So you can see there the difference. All right. But this is also a byproduct of not getting that coil. All right. Your arm's not working around. We're not creating as much momentum, and the length of the lever isn't as great. So we do lose power. All right, so just a little takeaway here, guys. Make sure you're coiling your hips. You're opening that upper body to get a larger coil up to the ball. And if you do so, you're going to find that you have more power and you have more spin. Guys, if you like today's video, make sure you hit that like button. If you never want to miss a video, hit subscribe. If you want to get your own footage analyzed by myself or Scott on the Player Court staff, then check out Player Court Plus. So many awesome benefits with analysis being one. I'll see you next time. Thanks so much for watching.